So you want to build a gaming PC, but you don't have the upfront cash for a graphics card. So what are your options? Settle with a pretty rubbish GPU right off the bat, or go with something like a 5600G and use the integrated graphics on that until you have enough money for a graphics card. Well, in this video I'm going to see how well the 5600G performs, and to be honest I should know as I've had this thing in my test bench for over a year now, but I've never tested the integrated graphics on the thing, so I think today will be a good video to find out how well this thing performs. Speaking of my test bench, by the way, I do have a ton of graphics card benchmarks on the way, including the AMD R9 285, which I did promise. That has been dispatched today as of filming, so make sure you stay subscribed for that and keep an eye out for it. AMD's 5600G was built on the Zen 3 architecture, which is a 7nm process, and it has incredible single core performance, and that's thanks to its 6 cores and 12 threads and its 16MB of L3 cache. This lets it perform pretty well when you pair it with pretty modest GPUs, maybe something like an RTX 3060 or an AMD RX 6600. Now onto the GPU portion. It has 448 shading units, which is about 20% of what the RX 570 had. I made a video on that, it's going to be up there, all there. And it shares your system memory, so the faster and the tighter timings you have on your system memory, the better the performance will be. So how does a PC with no discrete GPU perform in 2022? All testing today is done on my testing system, which has a Ryzen 5 5600G, 16GB of 3600MHz CL17 memory running in dual channel, a 1TB Sabrent Rocket NVMe Gen 3 SSD, and an ASUS B550-F Strix gaming. All testing is done at 1080p, as why would you game at anything higher than 1080p on an integrated GPU? I don't know, so all testing is done at 1080p. And I've also done some Cinebench for the CPU side of things today, and it got 1427 for its single core performance, which is pretty good. That's about a 40% uplift from something like a 1700X, which is first gen Ryzen. And the multi-score, which takes in all the processing threads, got 10,411, so not bad performance from this 6-core chip here. As always, I've done Unigine superposition here at 1080p medium, and the integrated graphics in the 5600G got 2662, which is not great, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. Just before I get into the benchmarks, there were some slight issues with the recording where it was just like really jittery and there was like flashing lights, and it just wasn't going to be a great viewing experience. So what I've done instead is use gameplay from other benchmarking videos that I've done, but the performance metrics will still be of the 5600G's integrated GPU. Fortnite is the first game up today, and for obvious reason I set it onto the performance API here, but I put on high textures and far view distance as well. This netted some pretty decent performance. I was actually pleasantly surprised by how well this performed, and it got 113 FPS on average with a 1% low of 50 FPS. Fortnite did develop some stutters here, but I don't think this is on the 5600G. It's just that Fortnite, for whatever reason, just stutters when you're loading up the world, even on the performance API. So yeah, it's done this on multiple different systems and multiple different configurations, and it usually settles after a while, so I wouldn't look too far into this. Next up is a personal favourite of mine and a new game to the benchmarking roster, and that is Minecraft Java Edition. But it's not the base game. When playing Java Edition, no matter what PC you've got, I always recommend using Optifine. And Optifine is a third-party mod which increases performance, and it also does improve a lot of the looks of the game as well. I set the graphics here to the fancy preset, which like lets all the leaves look all like nice and pretty and that. And I set the render distance to 16 and the simulation distance to 8. This is more on the CPU side, but it does affect some of the graphics as well. Either way, it got 193 FPS on average with a 1% low of 138. This was on a fresh world, so there was quite a few stutters when loading new chunks, but performance can go down as you build a lot of farms and stuff like that, especially a lot of redstone stuff. Performance can tend to tank quite a bit throughout Minecraft world. Either way, you can play Minecraft on an integrated graphics card. I threw in Cyberpunk just for the lols, to be honest, I'm not going to lie, and for obvious reason I set it to the low preset here, and FSR came to our rescue as I set it to the performance preset. This got 33 FPS on average with 24 FPS for the 1% low. The game did look pretty garbage, if I'm honest. It looked like someone smeared Vaseline all over the monitor. It didn't look great, but Cyberpunk is technically playable on an integrated GPU. Halo Reach on the Master Chief Collection is a game that I've been liking testing quite a lot recently. It performs quite well, but this is to be expected as Halo Reach did originally launch in 2010 on the Xbox 360. However, I set it to the original preset, and as always I did it in the firefight on the beachhead map, and this got 77 FPS on average with a 1% low of 49 FPS. This is pretty decent performance, and I recommend playing it at these settings, maybe even capping it to 60 FPS just to get rid of some of them stutters. Rainbow Six Siege is up next, and it is a pretty easy game to run, if I'm honest, but we set it to the low preset here anyways, and this got us 99 FPS on average with 81 FPS for that 1% low figure. So performance here, really good. The 1% low figures, not bad at all. There was hardly any stutters, and there was hardly any dips either. This is quite good performance here, I'm not going to lie. If you're after more of a 60 FPS experience, maybe the medium preset might look a bit better, but either way, you're going to be having a pretty decent time playing Rainbow Six Siege here. It wouldn't be one of my benchmarking videos without GTA 5, and I made sure it ran on an integrated GPU, so this goes to show you can run GTA 5 on pretty much anything at this point. We did have to drop it down to the normal preset here, but I did up the textures to high so the ground didn't look like a horrible muddy mess. While driving around the city, this netted us 63 FPS on average with a 1% low of 50 FPS. I think there were a couple of stutters, but it wasn't anything too bad. The game felt nice and smooth anyway, so yeah, you're going to be having a blast playing GTA if you're on an iGPU. But just remember, if you got something like a R9 270X, you could even increase his graphics a bit further. Dirt Rally 2.0 is up next, and it's quite an easy game to run, but on the low preset it does look like, let's be honest, it does look like garbage. But however, the performance was not garbage with this, with 99 FPS on average and a 1% low of 81 FPS. Dust in this game does tend to tank the FPS on lower end graphics cards and integrated GPU, so it's not terrible, that 1% low figure. Just beware if you're driving through like gravel and stuff like that, the performance is going to be quite a bit worse, but not by much at all. Last game up today is Rocket League, and this is probably the game that disappointed me the most, as I was expecting a lot more performance here. In a 3v3 match without bots, so with actual people that were probably just wondering what I was doing, because I kind of forgot the keybinds on a keyboard and mouse, because I always play this on controller. Anyways, on the high performance preset, which is essentially very low, it got 79 FPS on average with 38 FPS for that 1% low figure. Rocket League is quite prone to 1% low stutter, especially when you're boosting. I don't know what quite causes this, so if you know what causes it, let me know down in the comments, and maybe I can rectify it for future benchmarking. Rocket League, it's playable. I didn't feel like it was very unplayable at any point, so yeah, you might be having a great experience on Rocket League here. If you're waiting for a GPU in the short term, the integrated GPU on the 5600G should be enough to get you started. In the long term, I don't recommend playing on an integrated GPU in a Ryzen G series processor because the performance isn't great, and if you're investing that much into your platform, like the AM4 platform isn't the cheapest one out there. It's pretty accessible, but it's not the cheapest. And you're investing in really high performance memory, I recommend you go a bit lower on your platform and invest in a more powerful graphics card, as the graphics card is what's going to give you the most performance. I think the main thing why AMD's APUs haven't really caught on over the past sort of decade is mainly due to their poor performance when compared to a budget entry-level graphics card. And AMD is the only company that even tries to make decent APUs. Don't get me wrong, Intel has great integrated graphics for productivity workloads such as Premiere Pro, using their QuickSync engine, but for gaming, Intel HD graphics, or UHD graphics as they are now, are not that great compared to G series Ryzen processors. So do I recommend gaming on an integrated GPU? In the short term, yes, if you're just waiting for a graphics card. In the long term, definitely not. You can get a much better deal buying a discrete graphics card and getting something like a Ryzen 5 5500, something like that. So yeah, I'll recommend going down that route instead of just using the iGPU itself. But as long as you keep your expectations in check and you play it in the short term, I say, yeah, it's good enough to get your foot in the door. With all that being said, I'm going to leave the video here. I do have a lot of videos on the way. I've got so much content planned. I've got 3 GPUs on the way, and I do even have a pre-built sort of pre-owned PC coming, so we're going to review that, benchmark that, and see what upgrade paths it can have as well. So make sure you stay subscribed for that, and I'll catch you in the next one.